I'd like to call this August 17th, 2020 regular scheduled board meeting to order. Ms. Roberts, please call roll.
Mr. Butler?
Here.
Mr. Kruger?
Present.
Mr. Messler?
Here.
Mrs. Talley?
Here.
Mr. Unati?
Here. Everybody's here. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, do we have any additions or deletions to the agenda?
Yes, we have one under action item. We're going to add item number 4, and that's approval of the CWJRD contract. So action item number 4.
And that is in the electronic version, not in your printed version.
That is correct.
Maybe a motion to approve the agenda as presented. So moved. Mr. Unati.
Second.
Mr. Butler. Mr. Roberts.
Mr. Unati?
Yes.
Mr. Butler?
Yes.
Mr. Kruger?
Yes.
Mr. Messler?
Yes.
Mrs. Talley?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0. We're
Just to make sure that you're talking at the front part of this one.
first presentation, CWEA.
We turn it off, make sure there's no.
Good evening. My name is Carla Schwinski, and I'm co-president of the Canal Winchester Education Association. Also representing CWEA tonight are Deanna Summers, co-president, Audrey Rice, secretary, and Brittany Link, vice president. We are here tonight to speak to you on behalf of the 248 teachers of the Canal Winchester Education Association. These are not normal times, and we feel compelled to make a statement sharing our views about these very important decisions being made. None of this is easy.
The members of CWEA are proud of the work that we do with our Canal Winchester students and the community. We are united with the administration in providing the best and safest possible learning environment for our students and staff. As we prepare for the 2021 school year, we are concerned with the state of the COVID-19 pandemic in Franklin County.
The topic of school reopening is polarizing and divisive for students, parents, teachers, and staff. Teachers want to be in their classrooms with their students and know face-to-face instruction is the best, but worry about the risk of COVID-19. One of the ways to ease staff and community concerns is through communication of specific changes to educational practice as related to COVID-19. Staff have many unanswered questions, and this causes anxiety about what a return to school will look like. There is a real risk, albeit a small one, of contracting COVID-19, even when following the mandatory mask and social distancing rules that the district is putting into place. From Georgia to Colorado, schools have begun opening around the country. Districts have done their best to protect their students, staff, and employees, but in many of these instances, students and staff are testing positive for COVID-19 at an increasing rate. Again, the risk of serious health problems may be low, but it is real. And for those who do contract the virus, the effects could be debilitating or deadly.
At the special school board meeting on August 5th, Mr. Sockler stated as one of the 4 points of the approved restart plan, the health and safety and well-being of all our students and staff to be the forefront of the CW plan. We trust this perspective is true for the board as well, but our membership did not feel that way after the meeting. Many members expressed concern, disappointment, and emails, phone calls, and conversations to the CWEA leadership.
We are here tonight to ask the board to consider the safety of the staff and students as their highest priority. We realize not everyone agrees about the best way to reopen our schools, but we can agree that accurate information shared in a timely manner is key to everyone feeling safe and implementing and following those rules with fidelity. It will take everyone, teachers, students, secretaries, bus drivers, principals, I could go on, correctly wearing their masks, maintaining a minimum of 3 to 6 feet, and following COVID-19 reporting procedures to create the best possible environment for a safe start to our school year. We do not want our students to get sick, nor do we want to get sick ourselves or pass this virus on to loved ones. It is almost assured that despite our best efforts, planning, sanitizing, infection will take place in our schools. This has the potential for a harmful outcome for members of our educational community.
These times are difficult for all of us. In times of worry, we look to our leaders to help guide us and keep us safe. This moment requires all of us to make difficult choices that will allow our community to stay healthy. CWEA will continue to work with the administration and board to make the best possible decisions for our students, staff, and community. No matter what our teaching environment, members of CWEA believe in our schools and will work zealously to provide the absolute best learning opportunities for our students. Thank you for your time. We appreciate the positive working relationship that we have with the administration and school board, and we look forward to continuing our work together. Thank you.
Carla and team, we have two educators that sit on the board, so we understand the feedback that you received, and we are 100% support doing everything we can to make sure the staff and the students and the workers and OC and everybody included is safe. We're doing everything in our power to create that environment so that everyone feels comfortable getting back to their profession that everybody loves, which is teaching the students. I apologize if us as the board did not make that clear 2 weeks ago. It is truly felt and meant to come through that way, but if it did not, I take that as board president, I apologize. But again, we have two educators that sit on the board, so you always should know that you are very well represented by us as a board, because their voices are heard just as loud as ours. So.
Great, we thank you for that, and we do believe that as well. Thank you.
Board, anybody else have a follow-up?
No, I think I would just echo what Board President Kruger was saying, that we really appreciate you guys, and that we know that what you do, nobody else can do. We couldn't just put anybody in there, and the passion that you guys have, and the innovation, and the things that you do to collaborate. And we talk about that portrait of a graduate, empowering our students, and we know that that's what you do every day. So we just want to make sure that you understand that we're going out of our way to make sure that we're protecting our staff, making sure that our students are safe, and that we do take your concerns seriously. So if that came across that we're kind of dismissing the concerns of the staff as opposed to looking at what the parents want, we're trying to take all those things into consideration and make the best decision moving forward. But we always appreciate your input, and we're going to do our best to make sure that when we do reopen, it's going to be safe and it's going to be a positive learning environment for you as well as the students and the staff that are going to be in there. So we really do appreciate your time and coming and speaking to us today.
You know, a lot of the teachers that are still on staff are some of my kids. And I would never make a decision that I felt that we hadn't done everything possible to make that safe for the kids and every person on the staff. Teachers, from administrators to even the kids. So especially know that we've thought about every last thing that we can. It's a crazy time, but we're going to get through this.
Agreed. We feel the same way, so
And I think the communication that you're asking, there's a lot of that in the board report, in the building reports in here. So as we look at that, I'm going to urge parents and staff to look through this as well. But we're going to be stepping up the communication.
terrific. Thank you for your time.
And one last thing, Carla, the handbook. The handbook that we had to review last week will be going out either tonight or tomorrow. So we got a finalization, and that's a staff handbook in regards to COVID procedures.
That's
So
terrific.
we would love to have gotten out earlier, but however, working with the Franklin County Department of Health, we wanted to make sure that everything matched up what we were doing. So it is not finalized, and it will be going out either tonight after the meeting or tomorrow.
Great, that
All
will be
staff.
very much appreciated. I know I can speak on behalf of the teachers, so thank you for that. I appreciate that information. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, now we're going to move on to public voice. Mrs. Hunt has given me the list, and there's 3 folks that signed up for public voice. And the first we're hearing from is Diana Rush.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Ms. Rush, you're going to stand and just as they did face kind of Mr. Butler and speak to the floor. Thank you. You're on camera, so.
All right, so first of all, I can say that it seems a little odd you're having multiple verses people come up and bring pieces from this class. When I hear like the preparations being done for at Capital University and I see all the statistics where they've done the air exchange rates and there would be nobody coming up multiple times, like in the music program my son's in, we're doing it right now. Yeah, we were doing this. But that's not what I wanted to talk about tonight. What I came here is to discuss the fact that I feel like I heard at the last meeting, a specific question was asked about if you choose online, are you getting the same opportunities as those who are choosing in person? And I think that was very misleading to say that that is yes, because it's really not. So for the high schoolers, you've chosen this Edmonton program, or Edmonton, or however you say it, but it does not provide the same educational opportunities that the children get for in-person. For instance, my son, he'll be a sophomore, so if we were to choose Edmonton, he would not be able to do his honors chemistry, he would not be able to do his pre-AP English. Pretty much his whole schedule would be kaput. That's not an option, so to say that they're equal is misleading, it's not. So if a parent feels strongly about choosing online, they're going to have to either pick inferior opportunities educationally as a high schooler or try to leave Canal and go to Connections Academy or somewhere that's actually going to offer the same educational opportunities that are available if you choose in person. And so I think that's unfair for parents. You're left in a situation where you can choose safety or the classes they're supposed to have. And I guess that's all I have to say. And I guess I will say that I've emailed concerns about this, and I just sort of gotten a pat answer that, oh, it's aligned with state standards, and I feel like that's demeaning and it doesn't address the situation. No one's asking if it's aligned in the state standards. We're asking, is it equal? And it's not equal. And that's
Morty, and follow-up.
Well, I would say that obviously this is unprecedented, so Mrs. Rush, we really do appreciate you coming down. Now, if it were up to me, I would rather have your students back in there 5 days a week. We wouldn't have to worry about social distancing. But unfortunately, because it's 2020 and we're dealing with this whole coronavirus thing, that we had to make some adjustments. And when you're dealing with 3,800 students, you do the best you can for everyone, but obviously there's going to be individual situations where we wish that it was a better situation, but unfortunately, until we kind of come up with a better solution, we felt that this was the best path moving forward. But we do appreciate your concerns, and I'm sure, I don't know if Mr. Carew wants to jump in there, but I do want you to understand that we put a lot of thought into this, and we're trying to do the best we can. But when you're dealing with 3,800 students, there's always going to be 1 or 2 exceptions, but this was the best path that we thought as a board was moving
I
forward.
mean, I don't think that is 1 or 2 exceptions to say that our high school students would not be selecting inferior programs if they choose the online. I would say it's a good percentage of our, student population who are going to be giving up honors and pre-AP and extracurricular activities and electives, all sorts of things. They're going to have to choose to give up because you chose to pick Edmonton rather than a more robust online option, or to develop one that's homegrown and aligns with their classes like you did for the lower grades. So you're really not giving them an option. There isn't an option. You can do in person or not. I mean, you're not going to have the classes that you're supposed to have otherwise.
Well, like I said, I appreciate your time, and like I said, if it were up to me right now, I could wave a magic wand and we all be back in school. I know as a teacher, I'd much rather have like 20 kids in front of me as opposed to doing it online. but obviously we're doing the best job we can, and obviously this is unprecedented. So, Mrs. Raj, we really do appreciate you taking the time, and we're going to take your concerns into consideration. So thank you for coming to see that.
Yes, thank you. Next on public voice is David Amos. And I got a little feedback from folks out there. If you just step closer to the mic, I think it was hard to hear Mrs. Roush at some point. So if you can get to the mic, okay, thank you.
First off, thank you for. Better? Not better.
It'll be lit.
Better.
Oh, there we go. Test, test. No, I think we need a battery.
I've got a lot of.
There you go, it'll work. There you go.
Thank you for allowing me to speak. I'm here to talk about.
This. And you're gonna speak into the front part, it's gonna be after.
Better?
Yep.
I'm here to speak about, on behalf of my wife, Jill Amos, who unfortunately couldn't be here tonight due to city council meeting, to talk a little bit about the Mascot. I am part of a dying breed, let me explain. My name is Jill Amos, and I have been a resident of Canal, Winchester for the last 15 years. My husband and I have raised our 3 sons in the Canal, Winchester School District. I'm also a Native American from the Cherokee Nation. My given tribal name is White Dove, which means peaceful messenger. I was given my name by my grandfather. My children have also received their tribal names. I say that we are a dying breed because if my children do not marry an American Indian, they will be the end of our family line. My great-grandmother, Rosa Welch, was a shaman, which is Native American healer. She was a teacher of reading to her tribe before Native Americans were allowed to enter school. My ancestors hid in the mountains to avoid being part of the Trail of Tears in 1838. Did you know that on the U.S. Census they would write their race as white even when they were clearly Cherokee Indian just to avoid the government trying to relocate them or treat them unfairly? The town hall that held the records from our Cherokee tribe was partially burned to hide the Cherokee records. My grandfather's sister could not even start first grade until she was 14 because she was Native American. Buying shoes in a shoe store did not happen. The clerk would size you up from outside the window and you got whatever the clerk would hand out the door. When my grandparents were married in 1940, they were considered an interracial marriage. These are examples of the racism that my ancestors have had to endure. My family heritage is very important to me. It gives me strength and courage. Just as many other cultures have heroes in their history, my ancestors are some of my heroes. I have watched for the last few weeks as Allison Doerr has tried to replace the Canal Winchester Indian chief, and I have stood by hoping this nonsense would end. I am no longer willing to stand by and watch. I consider the request to remove the Indian and the chief symbol as a personal attack on my family's heritage. I consider this a form of racism, not considering a Native American as a symbol of strength and teamwork. Native Americans have a long-standing culture based on their tribe and putting the tribe before the individual. Isn't that what a team is about? Putting we before I? Please know that she does not speak for me, nor for several others in this community who do not want our family history to be forgotten. We believe that as American Indians, we are strong, and even stronger as a tribe. I do not, for a single minute, believe that the Canal Winchester Schools has misrepresented American Indians. The word Indian is not a defamation to our history. Ignorance is. I do not believe that the coaches are openly encouraging students to use the word scout in their chants. I have personally witnessed coaches and staff correcting incidents and asking them to respect and represent appropriately. When it gets down to it, as a Native American, I do not want my family history to be forgotten. If people keep erasing us, who will be left to remember that our family walked this land first? I do not want to change the symbol because it didn't seem pretty or someone found it offensive. In this day and age, people find offense in many things. Do not allow yourself to be bullied into a decision. I am strong, I am a leader, I am a Cherokee Indian. I appreciate your time and would happily welcome additional conversations. Thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead. Comments for David through Jill?
I know I've had a chance to meet Mrs. Ingles, and Mr. Ingles, we really appreciate you coming in. I think, obviously, we saw the newspaper, so getting different perspectives helps us make an informed decision as a board. So obviously, we appreciate you taking the time and coming up here and speaking with us.
And thank you again. Thank you.
Yeah, and what I like about that is, like Kevin said, really hearing one loud voice from folks who assigned the paper petition and their voice. I keep looking whose voice really matters. Me as a white person, my voice doesn't matter in this scenario. I need to ask the Native Americans that live in Canal, Winchester, what would you prefer? And so I'm very glad to hear Jill's voice through your reading, that it matters to her and is personal to her. If it was removed, it would be losing her identity and her honor. So thank you.
Thank you.
Last public voice is Kelly Nossinger.
Yeah, no, I'll talk to this guy.
Oh.
We're getting some ways.
Okay. Oh.
Thank you, Mrs. Roush, for the white suggestion.
All right, I'm gonna put it in here, does that work?
That works
All right,
fine for me.
thank you.
Sorry about that.
Is it working? Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Good evening. My name is Kelly Nossinger, and I'm a resident of Canal, Winchester for the past 21 years. My husband and I have 3 children in the CW school district, a senior, a sophomore, and a freshman. I am also a Native American. I belong to the Shasta Nation. When my senior was starting kindergarten, there was talk of a changing the Indian lingo of Canal, Winchester. I was confused and I was a bit angry, but I was not involved enough in the schools yet to know where to voice my concerns. As the years went on, this talk seemed to rear its head every few years and then seemed to disappear as quickly as it began, until this summer. A former graduate of CW, whose family is very well known in this district, decided to take it upon herself to do some research and fight for my people. One would think that this was a good cause from the outside, especially in this very fluid momentum that other organizations have caused. Fight for the Native Americans, the oppressed people. The problem with this thinking is that her plot is to not work with the Native Americans, but to work for the Native Americans. She would rather swoop in, fix, or save us, rather than come alongside us and ask us how to help and how we actually feel. You see, a Native American is a strong person. We have a rich culture in language, in dance, in heritage. We're survivors with a never-ending sense of perseverance. Ohio was first settled by Native Americans hundreds of years ago. We are the original forefathers of America. There were 6 tribes originally in Ohio: the Mingo, Delaware, Ottawa, Miami, Wyandot, and Shawnee. The Delaware Indians inhabited these lands that we now call Canal, Winchester. From streams and rivers to street names to neighborhood names, the Indian name rings with pride all around us in Canal. Even the name Ohio is an Indian word meaning good river. All of these places were either named by the Indians or in honor of the Indians that once walked these very lands. In the late 1930s, as Canal Winchester became more heavily involved in sports, it was time to choose school colors and a logo. Due to the large presence and history of the Native Americans here in our area, the Canal Winchester Indians, they went with the Indian name in the maroon and white. The word Indian is not a derogatory word. Let me say that one more time. The word Indian is not a derogatory word. I am hurt by the people who look at racism and prejudice and they blame it on an image that I think is so beautiful and that I take pride in. CW created a beautiful logo of an Indian chief in full headdress to represent us. It is not a cartoon character. It is not taken out of context. It is an Indian chief that represents strength and resilience along with family. Wouldn't you want to have a symbol that represents your school to have such power and meaning behind it? My reason for speaking tonight is twofold. The first reason is I need people in the CW to hear my voice, my Native American voice, that lives right here in Canal Winchester, say that I am not offended by our name nor our logo. Indian is my name, it is just not this school's moniker. Taking away this daily reminder is one more way that the rich Indian history is being removed. Native Americans walked these very lands well before the white man did. After years of wars and treaties, we were pushed out of the very lands we settled and established. To remove our last bit of history would be detrimental. The second reason I come tonight is to encourage our board to include more of the history of Native Americans into our curriculum. I want every Canal Winchester student to have that pride that I have when called an Indian. I want them to graduate knowing what it truly means to be an Indian in Canal Winchester. I'm currently working with a few local Native American organizations to see how CW can come alongside them and help them. I would love to see the history of Ohio, and specifically Native American history, be incorporated back into the elementary schools as it once was. By middle school, the concept of trade being practiced, creating contact between CW students and Native Americans possibly living on reservations. By high school, opportunities for volunteer hours approved with local Native American chapters that are in and around Columbus. We need to educate, not eradicate. I'm sad in the people behind the movement to want to change our school logo. The Columbus Dispatch article that the lead of the movement was quoted in stirred up even more angst. It is causing division in our community rather than unity, and we certainly could use all a little bit more unity right now. I also find it very ironic that she chose to use the very Indian logo to prove her point of dehumanizing and stereotyping Native Americans. However, when we want to use the logo to show strength and perseverance and to honor the lands we now live on, we are the ones that are in the wrong. Progressives are on a mission to remove Native American logos and mascots. However, no other school name and logos are being challenged, such as the Fighting Irish, the Vikings, the Raiders, the Celtics. These are all groups of people with their very own history. The desire to remove the Indian as our school's logo is true racism against my culture. I'm asking the board to put this debate away for good. The local Native Americans living in and around CW feel that this is an honor that is bestowed upon our schools to carry our history forward. Do not erase me.
Kevin, your eyebrows are up. Go ahead.
Well, Ms. Nelson, I know it's not easy to get up here. I know you took a lot of time to write that letter, and it's not easy to get up here. Trust me, I know from being up here for a few years now. This isn't the most welcoming way to present yourself. So getting up here, talking to us, sharing your thoughts and opinions is important. And I do want to say that I know that this is a debate that's been hotly, it's kind of in the news right now, but getting different perspectives from different people, and particularly people like yourself who are in the community, that helps us make informed decisions. So I wanted to make sure I showed you a little appreciation for getting up there and talking to us, and you came on very professional. I can tell that you were very passionate about what you're saying. So we appreciate you taking the time. So I always want to say something to people like this and come up here because it's not easy. So I know, Matt, you saw me with my eyebrows raised. I didn't know if you wanted to add something in on that one.
No, through the last couple of months that this has all hit, Jim and I have had many conversations, and I saw his head bobbing when you were talking about the education part of it and bringing it into more into the fold. I know we've had other conversations about bringing in the Black history into more of our fold, and I think both the Native American history and more of the black history in Canal Winchester is just going to strengthen that portrait of a graduate that's sitting behind, that's hanging behind you.
Absolutely.
That we can graduate students that are just so well versed in different forms of opinions. And I think that's the greatest thing right now, is to have children and teachers just to be involved in, your opinion matters, let's hear about it, let's talk about it. Let's just not post it and walk away, and to have a conversation, So, you know, it's interesting, I'm sure, Jim or someone will be circling back, because I think you were hitting some points about some work time and going back and doing some actual legwork with it. Might be some great PBLs and projects for the kids, and so.
Absolutely.
Okay, I will.
If I may, I'm going to read something, and I'm only speaking for myself, nobody else. I'm going to read it so I don't forget something. At the risk of being labeled culturally insensitive or uncaring, anyone who really knows me would know that that's furthest from the truth. I taught here at the high school for 21 years, American Ohio history and all the social studies. Once I came to Canal Winchester, I became passionate about teaching the entire history of the various tribes and the entire spectrum of diverse cultures. Upon returning to the classroom, I became a principal and other things, and went back to teach, especially in special ed. It's more fun that way. I continued to teach in the same fashion. During summer break for many years, I traveled and visited various tribal centers and took time to speak and learn about the vastness of each tribe's history. I incorporated that into my lessons. I contacted many authors who were experts on this history to investigate their writing experiences, especially in the Ohio area. I met with Alan Eckert, who wrote a number of books about Ohio and the native cultures. This added great texture and about the culture and lifestyle of the tribes of Ohio and other regions. I assigned supplemental readings, such as The Frontiersman and Bury My Heart at Wounded Knee, and others. I traveled to many reservations and talked to many people, and I asked them, would our representation of the Indian be in any way detrimental? And they asked me what I taught, and I explained to them about the honor, about the pride, about the culture, about the contributions to society, etc. While I don't consider myself an expert, I'm positive I taught and represented the history of these people in a fair and great detailed manner. As a head football and baseball coach, the teams I coached were proud to carry that great tradition, and we played and represented Canal Winchester. So in my 42 years as teacher, coach, parent, and now school board member, I've never experienced a representation of the Native Americans in any way but proud and honored culture. If I had such an experience, you can be darn sure that I would, it might have just drugged it in part, that I would have made it that issue and made sure that people learned from that mistake. Never once during the history or my coaching was the character of the Indian, Native American, whatever you wish to call it, minimized. Instead, it became a symbol of a proud and culture-rich history. So I will cut it short. I really feel it's important to learn and celebrate. There should be no such thing as American, Indian, Black, Asian history. It's American history. It should be taught in its entirety. And I believe that we should delve deeper into learning about that. So, my rationale for support of keeping the mascot as is such. So just wanted to let you know that's my opinion and mine only.
Thank you, Mr. Giovanni.
Mrs. Officer, I also want to thank you for giving me a perspective of the Native American action history in the community. I think that's very important. Everyone else has said everything I'd like to say as well.
Thank you.
Hi, thank you for speaking. It was a very powerful statement that you made, and also on behalf of Jill Amos. We don't take that very lightly. I think that the positive thing is that we're having these discussions, and that's something that is needed.
Yes.
And I'm a proponent of encouraging cultural diversity education being taught in public schools that will include learning of a variety of different cultures and backgrounds. I'm definitely a proponent of that, so I appreciate your coming this evening speaking with us.
Thank you, Mrs. Todd.
I just wanted to say real quick, because when you can look at me, you won't have a clue who I am. I'm actually Sanford Scott. I'm Jill Amos's mother. If you know Jill, you'll know she looks just like him.
Kelly, thank you for coming tonight. David,
Thank you.
I appreciate your voice. Your voice is. So that's what I had on the list tonight. Let me get back on track here. We're going to go with Treasurer's Report. Mr. Roberts?
Good evening. Always have to follow up some very passionate things with finances, From CWEA to some very passionate Native Americans. My family was also Native American, so I can relate to their voices a little bit. I don't live in Canal, so I don't have any opinion on what we do with Mascot. It's up to the 5 board members.
Nick, before you go, I just want to jump in and I know Allison's not here tonight, and I know she probably wouldn't want to be here to hear the voice. And I've been emailing Allison and some other folks about trying to get together with the discussion. I kind of thought the discussions were over once the dispatch hit, and a lot of opinions were made that way. But I think hearing Kelly and Jill's words tonight, I think we need to continue that conversation. It shouldn't be a closed door. It should continue. So when Allison comes back from schooling, if she's more than welcome to have conversations with anyone on the board. I'm sure some other folks could also have some voice with her. So I just wanted to put that out there.
I'm not going to get too specific into the financial report like I normally do. It's July. It's kind of hard to establish trends. I more want to kind of address where the state budget is, so that will help drive us looking forward. The state budget ended in the black for fiscal 20, which is good news for us. As you know, the state did not have to dip into the rainy day fund, which is also good news. They expected that they may have to with the way March and April had hit. July revenues, the first month of their budget was exceeded. Almost every line item exceeded what their estimates were. As I sent an email to the board, our income tax was down significantly this month. Mr. Watson, if you could pull that up, we'll see. But as you know, the filing deadline was typically April 15th. And the deadline was pushed back to July 15th, so a lot of money that we would typically get with the filing of tax returns, we did not get on this settlement. Those return revenues were up for the state. Last year they collected $5 million for tax returns, income tax. This year it was over $505 million. So it shows that we are going to probably make up the loss that we had in our first settlement in October. Because out of our loss, people actually working with a withholding, we only lost about 2.5% on our income tax, which shows that good thing was our people in Canal didn't lose their jobs, or most people did not. They continued to work, so income tax was still up for withholdings. The returns were the item that was down significantly, 42%. So with the state budget coming through in July, I expect to pick that back up. Most schools are being asked about budget reductions. We're obviously in a much better situation than almost 95% of our public school peers. Could have a plan for the board, but we don't really expect to have any staff reductions or anything like that. The only way that we would possibly recommend that as if we were online for 9 months, the entire school year. And even with that, we would have to highly consider not doing that. So we do have plans to reduce some costs, but we're going to try to do that inherently with staff that we have and those type of things. So if you want to go to income tax, Mr. Watson, year over year, just to be able to point it out, we were down $375,000. If you remember, I mean, 5 years in a row, we're up almost 10%, 7 to 10% in July. So to be down 21% was somewhat alarming. But as I emailed you, once you broke into the data, pretty good explanation that we probably will get that 375 back on our next settlement. We'll be real close. Yeah. So we get income tax settlements every quarter. We got one July 31st. We'll get another one October 31st. And we'll know more at that point, but I would expect us to recover from that. The biggest unknowns in our forecast this year are probably related more to other revenues. Are we going to have athletics? Are we going to, we obviously didn't accept any new open enrolled kids. So it's going to be things like that kind of nickel and dime us. Obviously the interest rates took a dip to zero. We already had some long-term planning, but we received $950,000 last year. We probably won't come close to that, so we'll lose several $100,000 there. So it's just going to be little things that kind of add up to either stagnant revenue or maybe even a decrease. Luckily, though, we're able to control expenditures. We're still going to be operating in the black this year, or expect to operate in the black. So all things considering, we're still better than, like I said, 95% of other public school districts in Ohio. And we're proud of the fact that we can say when they run studies that we're one of the top 20 districts in Ohio with a cash flow. So we're pretty proud that we're able to say that. So it takes a lot of time and a lot of work to manage the expenditure side of it, and this is why we've kind of built up the cash balance to be prepared for situations like this. Now, we would have never guessed that this was the scenario that we would be facing, but we are, and we're sitting in a great position to move forward. Hopefully this thing doesn't stick around with us too long. And then the other big worry is we still have 5% of our student body, and Mrs. Rush kind of alluded to kids maybe having to leave the district to go somewhere else, and that is concerning for the district, because when a kid does leave the district, we do pay more than what we receive for that kid. Mr. Butler and I just had a meeting. We receive about $2,500 per kid, but when they leave to go to a charter school or even another public school, we end up losing about $8,000 for that same student. So that is concerning. So we'll have to wait and see where the numbers come in. So hopefully we're doing everything we can to make sure we're able to offer the curriculum or whatever we need to do to make sure those kids stay in the district, because it will impact us financially. So, do you have any direct questions relating to the financials or the insurance report that was attached to the board meeting?
No. You did say the income tax, and I know, when will we get the numbers for the third quarter? Because I think that's what we're going to be looking at to see if we see that 21% jump back up. So we know that maybe later on in November, when are we going to get those numbers so we can kind of see where we're at?
End of October. Yeah.
And you said right now from the state, we can't predict what's going to happen, but the numbers are trending more positive than they were back in March, April, when we were in the quarantine and all that stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Their revenues were $245 million above estimates, and they were expecting to receive a high amount in returns due to the July 15th filing deadline. So they estimated high, and revenues still came in. I think Ohioans have been sitting at home buying some cars and shopping online quite a bit because all sales were up, which is a good thing. Because as people know, and we talked about this, my biggest concern with the state budget was reducing the base. The state acted like they didn't give us any information. They just almost pretended like we didn't take your $600,000 and just kept this on our base. And I would expect that to change, or not change, until we get back onto a formula funding. Under the Governor Galline, we do not have a formula. As Governor Casey had, which was benefiting the district greatly. Now we're back to a stagnant fixed revenue, which doesn't benefit anybody, because the state can reduce your baseline like they did, and then almost pretend that it never happened, and you're stuck with $600,000 left. So over a 4-year period, we thought that we're going to probably, if they don't change it, we're going to lose essentially $4 million on what we would have had. So how long does that go on? How long does it take to get back to a formula? Now, those things were a hot topic this summer, and they were expected to have something by this July 1st, and obviously the pandemic hit, and the formula obviously goes to the back burner for more important pressing concerns. I think as we get our hands wrapped on the pandemic, hopefully the formula discussion comes back to start funding public schools the way they're supposed to be funded. I think everybody knows we haven't had a constitutionally funded public school system in forever. I mean, it's been since the 60s since we've been able to say we have a constitutional funded formula for public school districts. So they've done better over the last 10 years, but hopefully we get back to a formula here soon. I think it would benefit a lot of districts. But the uncertainty is going to grow, and if you're continuously not receiving any more money from the state, then it puts a lot of pressure back on your local taxpayers.
That all other revenues, like I know that was down, or other revenues that were down to 48%, is that all sports, or where is some of that other revenue coming from, just out of curiosity?
A big piece would be pay to participate. We received about $200,000 on that. Student fees were almost $100,000. The board waived those last month, which I think was the right decision. And then, like I said, the interest is a big piece. We'll probably be down at least $300,000 this year, which is lower interest rate than we've been seeing. We had a 5-year plan, so we're not everything's falling off at once. So if the economy turns around here in 3 or 4 years, we'll be looking back saying, I wish we had that $950,000 that we had on interest. So, like I said, you start adding all of those little $100,000, $200,000 things up with the combination of losing $600,000 from the state and near $600,000, then you get back up into losing over $1 million in your revenue. So it kind of forces you to eat into your cash balance a little bit and really trim down some expenditures, which we're looking to do. Obviously, we're going to save. If we hybrid, we're going to have one day during the week where we don't have transportation, fuel costs, things like that. So there are going to be some inherent savings from doing some of these things. But we want to be socially aware to make sure we're doing the right thing, even though we might not have to because of the cash balance. We want to make sure we're doing what's right by our taxpayers and trying to sustain this into the future without asking for new money, which we have a pretty good plan in place to not do that.
And then what's involved in the purchase services being down $500,000? What did we buy this year?
We paid off the bus operations center last year. It cost $626,000. We paid that off last year in this month. So purchase services really are only up, what, $62,000?
That's still, I know we say that every month, the bus fee, is that still in there? That money?
No, it's down. It looks like it's down because we spent $1 million last year, $600,000.
Oh, because of that, yeah.
So we were right around 400 and some thousand last year too, if you was to back that out. Any other questions? Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Roberts. We're going to move on to Superintendent's report. Mr. Sauer.
Well, thank you.
Is it on? Power on? Like the button in front?
Testing. Oh, there it goes. We're back on again. Well, thank you, Mr. Kruger. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to all our viewers out there. Well, it's hard to believe that school starts in 16 days on September 2nd for grades 3, 6, and 9, which is orientation day. And then on September 3rd, school starts for students in Group A, and September 4th for students in Group B. It's hard to believe the summer has gone by this fast, and we're starting school even though we're starting school much later than we normally would have. It's hard to believe that it's less than 16 days away now. I do have one change that we're going to make for the September 2nd orientation day only, and that's for grades 3, 6, and 9. We were going to have a two-hour early dismissal for that day. So students will arrive to school on their normal start time. However, they will be released 2 hours earlier that day. And that again is for September 2nd for the orientation day for grades 3, 6, and 9. That will be a 2-hour early dismissal day. The reason for that is I want to give my principals and their staff an opportunity to debrief, do kind of a planning on how things went that day, from the time students got off the bus to the class change, lunch, and dismissal. This is new to all of us. So I think it's imperative that they have time to sit and discuss and talk about what went well, what didn't go well, what changes we need to make before the kids come back the next day. Plus, it is orientation day, and not all the kids can be with their teacher at one time, so they'll be spread throughout the building. But really want to give my staff time to prepare for the following day and give our custodians an extra time to clean. So once again, September 2nd will be a two-hour early dismissal, and that is just for that orientation day for grades 3, 6, and 9. September 3rd, 4th will be a normal day for start day and end day. Any questions on that? Okay, I do have some great news. Well, the district finally received 100% occupancy for the high school construction project. They signed off on all the information today. They were going through to make sure that all the inspections were done and everything met the code and all that stuff, and the building's ours again. So they're still in there. They're still doing a punch list. They'll be doing that for the next couple of weeks, painting and little things that got scratched up or nicked up that might be repaired. Nothing major, but they'll still be in the building for the next couple weeks, getting all that stuff finished up. But for the most part, everything's completely done and the building looks great. Unfortunately, we're not going to have an open house, but I am going to have a staff member take a video of that, of the new building, and we'll post that online as soon as he's done with it. So looking forward to everyone seeing the new construction process. It's awesome. I think our kids are going to love it. I think our staff is going to love it. It's a different feel. It's almost like the building's new. And so it's just hard to explain until you see it. But we'll have that out there hopefully within the next week, a video showing all the changes that occurred at the high school. Any question on that end? Okay, before I talk about our back to school plan again, I just wanted to touch base on a conversation we had earlier in regards to Mascot and maybe other issues with Black History Month and other types of things that we are really talking about in regards to equity, diversity, and inclusion. As you know, I've been working with Amanda Connolly to develop our plan. And it's a plan that's in progress. It's going to take time. It's not going to happen overnight. But our vision right now is to promote a culture that celebrates the equity and inclusivity and diversity for our students, staff, families, and wider community. And one of the bullet points that we're working on is we want to endorse that our success is directly linked to how well we value, engage, and affirm the rich diversity of our students, our staff, families, administrators, and community members. This means working to represent the diversity in leadership, as well as celebrating diversity within our curriculum, activities, and continuing education. So we are definitely looking at adding stuff to our curriculum and looking to add to the activities that really is bringing all of us together. We have a very diverse community here, and to me, that's what makes Canal Winchester special.
And I want to make sure that we're celebrating and honoring and respecting and understanding what that means for everyone that lives in Canal but goes to our school district. So that's something that we are working on, and we will continue to work on that it's a work in progress. It's not going to end. It doesn't happen overnight. We just don't come up with a curriculum and say, hey, we're going to teach you Native American history. Hey, we're going to teach Black history. Hey, we're going to teach you this or that. It takes time to develop. And I just need our community to give us time, but I want them to know that we are working on this. And it is important to me, it's important to my staff, it's important to our teachers, that we make sure that we are valuing all our kids as they walk into our buildings and understanding where they're coming from and the situation they're in. And that's what we need to do as a community, as a school district. So just wanted to have that out there that we are working on that. Okay, to our school, back to school plan. Currently, and I'm just going to go over some numbers which I gave you in front of you. Currently, we have about 63% of our kids, we're 2,349 students who have signed up for the school-based track. And about 37% of our kids, were 1,364 students who have signed up for the Koala track. Probably at any time, we're going to have maybe a third of the students in the building at one time. I know our building principals are working on developing guidelines, which a lot of them are in the board reports tonight. They're also working on schedules and trying to get class sizes as small as they possibly can. Right now, we're looking at class sizes that are ranged probably technical difficulty. We'll probably see class sizes that range from about 10 to 15 students, giving a few students here or there. We want to keep them as small as we possibly can. With those small class sizes, that gives us a great opportunity to maximize that 3 to 6 foot social distance guidelines. So this is about 95% accurate, or 95% of our students. We still have some students out there that the buildings are accurate. So, but 95% of our students, these are accurate numbers that represent 95% of our students. The buildings are trying to contact those students who have not made their choice yet to see whether they're still here. Did they go someplace else? And so they're making those phone calls today. Currently, as we know, we are still on the track to open in the hybrid model, and I totally understand the concerns about safely returning to school in this model. The safety, the health, and well-being of students and staff will always be my first priority, and I know from the board it will always be your first priority to make sure we're doing everything we can to protect our students and staff. I have worked closely with the Franklin County Health Department to develop and review our plans and guidelines. As a matter of fact, we met last Tuesday, I think Tuesday morning, through a Zoom conference with the Franklin County Department of Health to review our plan. Mr. Shawinski was there. Even though they're not going to give a sign of approval, which they told us that, they did say that our plan would meet all their guidelines to return to school in a hybrid model. I've been working with them on our staff COVID procedure handbook, for lack of a better term, for everything that will happen during the school day, and we finally got that finalized, as I said earlier, and I will be sending that out to our staff. I'm trying to do everything we possibly can to make sure our kids are safely returned to school and to make sure our staffs are here. I want to have healthy, clean, working and learning environments. If you recall, or if you listened to last week, Governor DeWine's press conference, Dr. Patty Manning, who is Chief of Staff at Cincinnati Children's Hospital, talked about the 4 strategies that every school needs to implement in order to return to school safely. Number 1, masks for all students and staff. We have that in place. From kindergarten on, every student, every employee will wear a mask. Now, there are exceptions to the rule, which we know in regards to health conditions. But for the most part, every student, every staff will be wearing that mask. Face shields are only good if you have the mask on. There is nothing we can do about that. That's what we're told. So we have, all our staff will have a face shield and all our staff will have a mask. But they are also to provide their own. We're also asking our parents that they're going to need to provide their own for their kids. However, we do have extras in the building. We have about 13,000 masks now throughout the district in case someone loses one, it breaks, or for other reasons. But masks will be worn every single day in our buildings. Social distancing, they talked about that 3 to 6 feet. And she said there's no scientific proof that 3 to 6 feet is which one's best. But she goes 3 feet is good, 4 feet is better, and 6 feet is the best when you have a mask on. We can't accomplish that in our classrooms with the smaller class size at this time. Talk about hand hygiene, washing with soap for 20 seconds or more, hand sanitizers. We will have several stations throughout the building. We actually, some of our maintenance guys made a few extra hand pumps for us so the kids don't have to touch it, they just use their foot. So we're doing everything we possibly can that we believe, that I believe, is to bring our kids back, to offer a safe and clean learning environments and working environments for our students and for our staff. And the last one she talked about was cleaning and disinfecting the surfaces. We are going to go above and beyond, and we'll talk a little bit about that later in the action items when we talk about the Prevent 24X. So these 4 strategies plus other guidelines and procedures that is in a plan that I'm going to send out to our staff either tonight or tomorrow, in my opinion, will ensure the safest return to school for students and staff for the 2020-21 school year. I value the safety, the health of our kids and our staff, and I will never put anyone in a position that I did not feel comfortable with myself or my kids in. Getting our kids back in school and in front of our teachers is a priority of ours. And I understand the health pandemic that's out there, and we're going to do everything we can to make sure that these buildings are clean, they're safe, they're ready to go, and is providing an optimum health and educational learning experience for our kids. That's all I have right now. Any questions?
Jim, can you talk to, you and I had conversations about indicators today, and what's going to tell us where we're going to go? Whether we're going to stay in hybrid, whether we're going to move to all online, or we're going to move to in person, full-time in person. What are you looking for as indicators for us as a district?
Unfortunately, there is no, this is what we're going to do. It's going to be a combination of a couple things. We're not using the state level system, 1, 2, 3, 4, yellow, orange, red, or purple, as the all-inclusive way. It's one part of the equation. So that level system will be one part of the equation. I'm also looking at the numbers in Franklin County, and I don't know if many of you know this, but our numbers have dropped in Franklin County. As a matter of fact, we truly have met only 2 indicators. But what's keeping Franklin County in the red is that our caseload is still over 100 per 100,000 people in Franklin County. We're at about 126, which is down from the 140 the week before, down from the 180. So we're on a downward trend. Our positivity rate is going downwards in Franklin County. Our caseloads here in our school district, Canal, only represents maybe 3.5% of all cases in Franklin County. So I'm looking at all those factors. I'm looking at the factors of, okay, do we go to orange level? To get to 5-day all in, that's going to take a lot, probably getting down to that lowest level of 1, and don't see us getting there anytime soon. So hybrid will probably be the model that we'll be in, at least for the first semester of school. Adding the flu season on top of that, I can't. My best guess is hybrid is probably going to be a model for us for a period of time.
Yeah, and I'm not wanting you to guess. I'm just saying, what are you looking at for indicators so that parents and staff and we can all kind of look with you to say, hey, what's that trigger going to be?
Yeah, those couple things, the positivity rate, the caseloads, those are 2 big indicators of how a community is doing. And it's also not just the county, it's in our community, because we have to look at what's around us compared to other places in our county. And so those are the 2 big indicators that I'm going to look for. And of course, I'm going to use that level system as our guide too. Right now, we're still in red. And we have to remember, it's only a recommendation, it's not a mandate. But with everything going on a downward trend and with our numbers low right now, it's probably best for us to stay in a hybrid model at this time. Getting to the all-in 5 days, that's going to take a lot. We're going to have to see 4 or 5 weeks of such positive trend that it's like, okay, we're getting back to normal, which I don't think will happen. I don't think there will ever be a normal. Masks, I've been asked about masks. I can't see masks going away anytime soon. There'll be a mask mandate. That's probably one thing they talk about all the time is the mask and social distancing. If you can maintain that 3 to 6 feet, wear your mask, that will help reduce the spread. It doesn't stop it, there's nothing stopping it but a vaccine until it's made. So if we can reduce the spread, that's what we want to do. I want to just talk about real quick in regards to that, those incidents that happen in those other three school districts throughout the country where kids were test positive. Number one, 2 of those were in communities that it was all in 5 days a week and there was no mask mandate. So that was just everyone back in school, no mask mandate, so everyone's walking in the hallways. All 3 of those kids came to school before they got their test results back. So I have to beg my parents, I'm asking all parents out there, we're going to need you to do your job in making sure that you are checking your child every single day. And if you think there's something wrong, keep him or her home. If you go get a test, do not send that individual to school until we get results back. I need the parents more than anyone else right now to do their part. And I got a parent checklist, it's a real quick checklist that we will be sending out here shortly. Actually, the ESC developed it for us because we asked them for some help. But it just talks about these are the things you need to do before your child leaves for school that day. You know, checking their temperature, do they have a runny nose, do they have any aches, any pains, any coughs. It's just not one, and it's a combination of 2 or more things. But if you feel your child is safe, keep them home. And that's what I have to report to my parents. Please work with us. If we want to keep our kids in school, you've got to do your part. And if you can't do your part, then it's hard for us to do our part because, you know, probably it's a matter of when and not if. We're probably going to have something at some time soon. Hopefully not for a while. But at the same time, if we're doing everything we can to social distance and mask, that could be a long time from now. And so that's what we need to do. And we're talking a little bit more about the cleaning, disinfecting, and the action items. Questions?
Mr. Saller, I know we were talking a little bit about the numbers of students who last time chose online versus in school. How many students are we still waiting on our families, waiting on a response to make a decision? Are we still got a lot of families?
Probably less than 200 right now, so about 5%.
And then when is hopefully the deadline probably?
Well, the deadline was passed, so we gave parents an extra time, and now I have our buildings reaching out to those students right now because we have their information and trying to get them to go online and fill out the online form. So it's just that communication piece and reaching them, but we are reaching out to them.
And Mr. Salter, in regards to the parents doing their part, you are emphasizing that you really need them to do that. I know we'll probably talk about the attendance piece later on in the meeting, but I just wanted to ask really quickly, those parents who have to keep their kids at home because they may be pending test results or sick, those absences are going to be excused, correct?
Oh, yes, absolutely, absolutely. And if they're home, they'll be in remote learning, and if they're in a hybrid model, so their education will continue. Yes. With the attendance piece. Yeah, there's still waiting on all the guidance from them, but we're not going to compromise so that parents are going to keep them home, you know, for the right reasons. Any other questions, comments?
I have one more.
Yes.
In regards to your work that you're doing with Amanda Conley, can you share a little bit about the planning process, or maybe how often you meet?
Yeah,
possibly a timetable to get this implemented?
Yeah, we talk weekly, and so the 2 of us have been going back and forth. She's actually developing some professional development for the staff that we're going to use on Friday, August 28th. And so we are in that planning with our staff right now of doing all the behind the scenes work. Now, in regards to curriculum development and in regards to some of those other things, we are going to have a community forum at a later time. So we're working on developing that, how we want to do it. So these are the things that are in the works. And but the first actual one will be on August 28th with PD for our staff. And it will be a webinar type activity.
Great.
So.
Okay, Mr. Seiler, thank you very much. Thank you. We're going to move into district reports. JP, my internet went down. I think you're hogging all the internet over there, so I can't open anything up. But what I did see from reviewing is that there's a lot of processes and procedures about how the buildings are gonna be, welcoming students, lunches, in and out, buses. So I encourage parents and folks that are interested in that to look at the board minutes and to look at your school represented with what's going on there. So I don't know if anybody have any questions. I don't know if Kai or Jim from the administrative or maybe some teachers that are sitting out there. If you guys have any questions on any of the board, the district reports.
And if they have questions, concerns, I would advise our teachers, please contact your principals, because they're developing those plans from within, that's in the board reports out there. So they've been working hard with their department heads, we're building leadership team, and developing the procedures for the staff.
Okay. If you don't have any questions, that's fine. We will move into the consent agenda. We will need a motion to accept the consent agenda. Mr. Metzler?
Second.
I'll give it to Mrs. Talley. Mrs. Hunt?
Thank you and good evening. We're going to start first with number 1 are the minutes from the July 20th board meeting. Moving on to number 2 for certified personnel. We would like to accept a letter of resignation of Greg Doge, high school social studies teacher, effective March 1st, 2021. And we want to thank him for his 23 years of service with the district. We are also approving Rebecca Gee as our school nurse. She will be replacing Marcia Gibbons, who also resigned in the spring. And she will be at both Indian Trail and Winchester Trail, and she's been working with the principals to develop some COVID plans and keeping the building safe as well. Moving on, you'll see the extended days. We have several. Generally, we approve these in May, but we held off due to the fact that we weren't quite sure how we were returning. So now that we are returning in a hybrid, these positions will be needed, and we're asking you to approve those. Number 3 is our classified personnel. We have a resignation from Jasmine Penn as bus driver, and that would be effective at the end of the 2019 school year. And number 4, we're asking you to approve Victor Paini as middle school golf coach. And there are a few volunteers there as well for fall sports. Number 5 are the handbooks. Again, we generally approve these in May, but as you know, we've had several changes to them for procedures and how we'll be handling different things in buildings. So you'll notice that we have all the handbooks here for approval.
If I'm right, under Victor Paini, it says $2,000 hourly rate.
That should not say hourly rate.
I'm going to try retirement for that one.
That's a great catch. Yes, that is not an hourly rate. That should be supplemental amount. Thank you for pointing that out. Mr. Roberts, can you make note of that correction, please?
Sounds like a lawyer, right, John? Do you have any questions other than hourly rates for the consent agenda?
Yes, I mentioned, yeah. You were still caught on that hourly rate, I guess. I apologize. I just got your application through the application system that you want to be our call coach.
Any questions? Mrs. Hunt? Mr. Roberts, you please call roll.
Mr. Metzler?
Yes.
Mrs. Talley?
Yes.
Mr. Butler?
Yes.
Berger?
Yes.
Mr. United?
Yes.
Okay, consent agenda passes 5-0. Thank you very much. And we're going to move on to action items. So I'm going to need a approval for each action item as we go through. So I need a motion for action item number 1, private tuition contracts.
So moved.
Second. And Mr. Butler and Mr. Unati. Mr. Roberts, I believe has this one?
Yeah, this is to place some students into special programs, normal part of business. We've approved many through the last couple of months, just a couple more. The Phoenix Central, I just want to point out, that's not for a particular student. We can purchase a seat for a discounted rate, knowing that any student could actually go into that seat for our autistic program. So, any questions on the private tuition contracts?
Mr. Roberts?
Mr. Butler?
Yes.
Mr. Unati?
Yes.
Mr. Krueger?
Yes.
Mr. Metzler?
Yes.
Mrs. Talley?
Yes.
Okay, the motion passes 5-0. Move on to action item number 2. The Truly Nolan sanitizing and disinfecting service. Sorry about that. I'll motion.
So moved.
Mr. Iannotti, Mr. Sotler.
Okay, thank you very much. This goes to the fourth point that Dr. Patty Manning was talking about in order to return to full safely to cleaning and disinfecting of your buildings and your surfaces. We're going to use Truly Nolan for the first time and for the one time only, that they're going to come in and they're going to disinfect and sanitize every surface area in every building, desks, chairs, doors, tables, everything. At Indian Trail, Winchester Trail, middle school, high school, locker rooms, playgrounds, the whole works. Once they disinfect and sanitize those areas, then they're going to put out a product called Prevent 24X. And this Prevent 24X is a barrier that works hand in hand with the disinfecting and cleaning of the of those areas. This is a one-time expense for Truly Nolan. It is coming out of the COVID relief funds. Once we go through this first round, our custodians will then be trained on how to properly clean and then reapply Prevent 24X every 30 days to 90 days, depending on whether it's a high-touch area or a low-touch area. And so this is just one more way how we're trying to do everything we possibly can to provide clean and healthy working and learning environments for our students and staff. Let me talk a little bit about Prevent 24X, which is the most important part about this. Go back to that. In order to for the Prevent 24X to work properly, they do have to disinfect and sanitize all areas so all surfaces are clean before they apply it. And so they use a product called DSV. You have to have a license to do it and the proper equipment to spray it. And it's very laborious work because you're going through every single aspect of the building. Once you do that, you put on the Prevent 24X. Prevent 24X is not a disinfectant. However, it works hand in hand with the disinfectant. The two work better together than any other disinfectants on their own. It is a bacterial static that stays on surface, continuously protecting it against germs, mold, mildew for up to 90 days, depending on whether it's a high-use or a low-use area. The compound in Prevent 24/7 is safe to humans and is non-toxic, non-leaching, non-hazardous, and does not promote the growth of superbugs. When a disinfecting product is used, it does not destroy the bond. Instead, it cleans it and leaves the surface ready for Prevent 24X to go another round against germs, mold, mildew, and other things. And so this is going to protect the surfaces at least up to 30 days in the classroom. And that's so the disinfecting, sanitize, the Prevent 24X, that barrier will protect against anything attaching to that desk. We're still going to go and do our proper cleaning, daily cleaning of those desks. But this truly is another step in hopefully, reducing, reducing the spread of COVID in the buildings. And so there's a lot of companies that are using Prevent 24X, from Boeing to FedEx to the Flying J travel spots, a couple of sports arenas. And so it's out there throughout the United States. To me, this is something that I think we have to ensure our community that when we're bringing kids back, we're doing everything possible to ensure that our environments are safe, they're clean, and they're ready to go. Now, we can use this more often if we wanted to. They recommend 30 days in your high-touch areas, which is what we're going to do. So we got a schedule of every 30 days, we're gonna go back in, we're gonna clean, sanitize, we're not gonna use that process we used first, because we don't have to do that anymore. We'll do that on our own, and then we'll spray. I believe we got some sprayers, Mr. Kruger, to help out with this. So it doesn't take, and instead of spray bottles, they're actually gonna use machines to help out, so it goes much quicker. And so, today, you're going to approve the first part of that, and that's the first application, the disinfecting, sanitizing, and then the first application of Prevent 24.
So if we make this purchase today, will the $27,000, will that cover the product that we're gonna need to, if we need to come back over and have our staff do it, or is this just a one-time?
This is just a one-time for the truly Nolan contract to come in and do that. We will have to purchase product. That is correct.
So explain the areas that they're gonna be doing, and we're not talking just classrooms, we're talking locker rooms,
Locker rooms, field house, weight room, playgrounds, bleachers, buses. I totally forgot about the buses, so they're gonna do the buses too. So this is almost every area that has a surface that is gonna be touched. And they're gonna go through every single building. I believe they're gonna start that sometime this week, because it's gonna take time to do all this. So any surface area that's in the building, they're gonna go through, touch it, and disinfect, sanitize, and then they have to wait 15, 20 minutes and then go back and put Prevent 24X on. Once it dries, it's safe for everyone. Okay? And it's it's just an added extra layer of protection for us and for our staff and for our kids.
Yeah, and what I like about this is, it's just not a one and done. I mean, Nick has spent numerous of hours doing research on this and talking to Jim and the team that, Nick went ahead and bought 6 sprayers, knowing that this is gonna be an ongoing, we're not gonna get rid of COVID. It's gonna be around for years, ever. So we're gonna need a long-term plan. This is not a get-rich-quick scheme to just do it once and we're done. Hey, look what we did. This is an ongoing program that we've invested in, and we're going to continue to invest in to apply this for years to come. So it's just not, it's been very well thought out. I know we've had many discussions about this. So came to the conclusion that the $27,000 is a one-time charge that we are willing to go forward and do to start this process off on the right foot, and then we will continue to be safe for the teachers and for the kids to come back into the classrooms.
And I think one of the things, this is just not about COVID. This will kill all germs. So we're hoping this will help with the flu season and any other type of germs that our kids get throughout the day. So even though we're talking COVID, this is for any bacteria, any germs that will prevent it from attaching to the desk. So hopefully, the health, the long-term health, will actually be better for us. And we'll have less kids that are sick and staff members that will get sick, hopefully.
And then this is gonna help provide that another layer of protection. I know we had our staff members along with our students up here who have their concerns. So all of this is just kind of another step in the process, the multiple steps that we're taking.
Absolutely.
Bringing our students, bringing our community, bringing back our staff safely, so.
Correct.
Okay.
And these chemicals are kid safe and teacher safe?
Absolutely, yes. They are safe, and I think I read it somewhere in here. Non-toxic, non-leaching, non-hazardous, and it's approved by the EPA, and we can't use it. So it is safe. Once it dries, it's on the desk, it's fine.
Mr. Roberts?
Let's go roll.
Mr. Kruger?
Yes.
Mr. Unati?
Yes.
Mr. Butler?
Yes.
Mr. Metzler?
Yes.
Mrs. Dowling?
Yes.
Okay, motion passes 5-0. Move on to action item number 3, which is board policy emergency approval. I need a motion.
So moved.
Mrs. Talley,
Second.
Mr. Metzler.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Pretty quick policies and pretty quick explanations on them. So there are 3 that we're asking you to approve tonight. First is the 5,200 attendance policy. This policy is revised to include a definition of medical excuse, and more importantly, it allows for us to provide options for attendance in a remote learning, distance learning environment. Because we are offering remote distant learning, we are required to adopt an attendance policy that addresses the remote district learning for attendance purposes. Moving on to 8450.01, this is a new policy on protective facial coverings during a epidemic. This is a new policy, and we are required to adopt a face mask policy prior to the start of the year. And then the last, and certainly not the least, however, it is very lengthy, is 2266, non-discrimination on the basis of sex in district programs or activities. Kevin could scroll down, and there's still more and more on here that explains why we're changing this policy. Basically, new regulations came out from the U.S. Department of Education and Ohio Civil Rights to with Title IX regulations. So this policy is new. It will replace our older policy, which we have tied in with some of the other factors. But this one has very specific details and guidelines that we must follow. So you'll notice it is very lengthy on the changes. I have gone through training for this, and several of our staff members will be going through training as well. The main change is that I have been the district compliance officer, so I would do the investigations, I would do the decision making, and then I would take that to Mr. Sattler for a final decision. And now all of those steps have to be done by a different person. So I can't be all three. Different individuals will have to take on the role. So those are the changes that you'll see there. And again, this is emergency due to the timeline of needing these approved prior to the start of the school year.
Any questions on that?
Quick, Mrs. Hunt, I guess Mr. Sattler can answer this as he has the microphone, that the language in these policies have come from NEOLA, right? So it's industry standard language, it's not something we just wrote up on our own.
100%. Yep, these are all NEOLA recommended that policy.
That is correct, yes. Okay. Mr. Roberts?
Mrs. Ty?
Yes.
Mr. Metzler?
Yes.
Mr. Butler?
Yes.
Mr. Krueger?
Yes.
Mr. United?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0. Last action item would be number 4. I don't have the exact. CWJRD Services Agreement. I'll go ahead and make a motion.
Second.
Mr. Metzler? Nick, you want to talk to us real quick?
Yeah, this has been about a year process. We met back with CWJRD along with the city, and it came down to they weren't going to be able to exist much longer if the school and the city didn't step up. Now, the rec department was joined under a revised code that was joined up for the school and by the city. Most recs fall under city rec departments, and the city runs it. This one was formed under both. So we did have a partnership in place. And the only thing we were really doing for CWJRD was providing facilities, and they were giving a $5 user fee. So instead of obviously letting that dissolve, the board decided they wanted to step up and do something. So this agreement basically says we're going to become the fiscal agent for CWJRD and no longer charge the user fee. This will save them approximately $45,000. So we're going to basically give them in-kind services. And it's legal under the Ohio Revised Code. There's a special fund created by the auditor that we can make this happen. So we thought it was the best thing to do, especially, we were talking about this before COVID. It just happened. It hit COVID, came along and really did some damage to CWJRD without having spring sports, and I think looking at probably not having fall sports. So I think it'd be a big loss for the community if we didn't step forward and help CWJRD to be able to sustain itself into the future.
Yeah, I'll say it again, I appreciate the school, the treasury department stepping up, and Nick helping out with that. I know that the city helps the JRD with legal representation and guidance, and I know that we as a district are going to help out in a little bit
the role as a financial officer for the JRD, which again, is going to really be a huge benefit for us to, as a JRD. John and I, by the way, serve on the JRD board. That's why I call it we, or our thing, because we've been there forever. But it's really going to help us out and sustain that organization for kids that have sports and the youth and the community to have other programs as we're put together too. So thank you.
I did what Matt just said. We appreciate you doing this, and it'll be a huge benefit for the community. It'll be a trickle down effect, so hopefully that will be able to provide more activities and services. Not just sports, but we're hoping to do broaden our horizons with more activities for students, for kids in the community.
Any further questions? Nick, go ahead. Roll.
Mr. Krueger?
Yes.
Mr. Metzler?
Yes.
Mr. Butler?
Yes.
Mrs. Talley?
Yes.
Mr. Giannotti?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0. Appreciate that. Any other items we've missed, Mr. Sutler?
No.
No. Okay, and we have no need for any executive meeting.
That is correct, no executive session needed.
Yes, so we need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Mr. Giannotti?
Second.
Who gets it? Mike first. Mr. Metzler? You call roll, Mr. Roberts.
Mr. Giannotti?
Yes.
Mr. Metzler?
Yes.
Mr. Butler?
Yes.
Mr. Krueger?
Yes.
Mrs. Talley?
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0 for the adjournment of the meeting. I appreciate everybody here in the public voice, and we look forward to what's going to be happening in 2 weeks. Thank you.